This is a starting caliber receiver going from the Miami Dolphins. Of course, effectively replaced him on the roster. Of course, the trade and signing. I mean, the Dolphins essentially moved on from Devontae Parker, but still, he had significant value, enough to where they get a future third rounder for Devontae Parker and a fifth rounder. But he goes to the New England Patriots, and from my understanding, this is someone that Coach Bill Belichick has liked for a long time. Has always respected his skill set, and really someone that he considered to be a solid addition to his receiving core. And then it went the other way, too. Devontae Parker wanted to be a member of the New England Patriots, and he didn't have a no-trade clause, so he didn't have the power like that. It's not like he's Russell Wilson. But from my understanding, he made it very clear that he wanted to be a member of the Patriots. And as soon as General Manager Chris Grier realized that was the best deal that they could get, it worked out well for all sides. Devontae Parker now, we need to take his physical today and wrap it all up. But anyway, going to be a member of the New England Patriots, and the Dolphins shed some salary.
Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal. It's White. He's in. Patriots win the Super Bowl. Brady has his fifth. What a comeback.
This is All Eyes on the Pats podcast. Good morning and welcome to All Eyes on the Pats podcast. I'm your host, Steve Atkinson. Got a full 30 minutes this morning talking Patriots. Devontae Parker now is a member of the New England Patriots with a trade. With the Patriots traded picks to get Devontae Parker over the weekend. And I left last week's show after I recorded it last Wednesday night. News broke, and I will get to that later. But I'm going to start with Patriots right now, and Devontae Parker is now a member of the New England Patriots. And what he brings to the team is pretty much he's over 6 feet, right? And he brings that deep threat the Patriots really do need. Nelson Agholor really isn't it. N'Keal Harry's probably gone. You have kind of a slot guy like Edelman with Jacoby Myers, who can run over the middle. Kendrick Bourne can kind of do both. He's over the middle and he can go deep. But Devontae Parker is strictly a deep guy, and what he brings to this team is he's really your number one guy, right? And he takes the heat off Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Agholor, even your tight ends, Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, because last year, your number one receiver was literally Kendrick Bourne, right? So having Parker here brings stability to that wide receiver room and helps you even more when you go into the draft at the end of the month and you try and pick and draft a wide receiver. Also, I'm going to be talking about Steve's draft board. We are doing tight ends this week. We did offensive line last week. And then we have wide receiver, running back, and then quarterback to finish it before the NFL draft starts, I should say. So it's going to be a pretty interesting next few weeks. I think that the Patriots aren't done at adding a receiver, even in the market, right? They could possibly go and get someone else. There's other names still out there that they could possibly get. I know Jimmy Stewart from Felger and Mats has hinted DK Metcalf, and maybe they trade N'Keal Harry for some picks and a receiver, but apparently nobody wants N'Keal Harry, so he's kind of, the first round pick, but he's not, right? He was never worth that much, and but what Devontae Parker really does give more power to that offense and the wide receiving core. And honestly, it's about time Bill Belichick did something to help Mac Jones. I mean, we saw it this whole offseason, right? They lose two guys from the offensive line. They lose part of their defense. They lose not to mention their coaching staff. Who knows who's calling the plays? There's no offensive coordinator. There's no defensive coordinator. But for Mac going into his second year, he loses Josh McDaniels. He's got Joe Judge. He's got Matt Patricia. He doesn't really have a quarterback coach, right? Maybe Brian Hoyer, who they did re-sign to be his mentor in that regard. But other than that, it's really kind of it's kind of lopsided, to say the least. And then you have Robert Kraft coming out at the owners' meetings last week, the NFL meetings, and saying, he doesn't like the team not winning a playoff game in the last 3 years, and Bill Belichick coming out and saying, well, we're not, it's only, we're not playing games until September. It doesn't matter who's calling the plays. We're not sure. So we're not done adding, right? So it's really been a bad offseason for the Patriots, even though this signing is good. And it's a cheap signing, too. The guy's coming off injuries. He hasn't really, played to his full potential, I think. And with the Dolphins now just getting Tyreek Hill last week, you kind of thought at the beginning, like, well, the Patriots are screwed, right? They have nobody, right? The Dolphins have Tyreek Hill and Devontae Parker, and Mac Jones is going into the season with nothing. Excuse me. But, again, this move is big because it adds some depth and it takes the pressure off Nelson Aguilar, who I don't think is going to be here, Kendrick Bourne, and I don't think they're done adding. I think they're going to do one more. I think they're going to try and make a trade for another receiver here leading up to the draft, and then they're going to draft a few receivers, maybe like a Jamar Chase thing, like I've said, for Joe, like with Joe Burrow, drafts a receiver that Mac went to school with. He knows, and maybe Jameson Williams was coming off the ACL injury, but maybe someone else he went to school with. There's a lot of things, I think John Mechie is his name, there's a lot of things that they can do to be successful in his second year, because I do believe, and I do think, I should say, that Bill Belichick is on the hot seat. After those comments from Robert Kraft last week saying he is not happy the way the team hasn't won a playoff game since 2019. I was going to say since Tom Brady left, but Tom Brady was part of that in 2019 game loss against the Titans in the wild card game. So, but he goes in, and I've been through this, right? He sees Tom win a Super Bowl and they spend all that money, and then they draft a quarterback, and then they have to, I've been through it. Week after week after week, kind of repeating myself, like, why they did what they did a year ago and why they are where they are now. And you look at Buffalo's getting better. They just signed Stephon Diggs this morning, or just, it gave him an extension, I should say. So there's a lot of things and the AFC is loaded, right? Russell Wilson's now in the division. The AFC West has 4 teams that are pretty good. The Raiders, the Chargers, the Broncos, the Chiefs, all have good quarterbacks. Josh McDaniels is going in his rookie season his first year as the Las Vegas Raiders head coach. So there's a lot going on to that. If I would have told you before this signing that the Patriots probably wouldn't make the playoffs. Now, after this signing, do I think the Patriots make the playoffs? I don't know. I'm going to say no for right now. I'm going to say no because they got to do more. Because what if Devontae Parker gets hurt? Now what do you got? Now you're stuck with what you had last year. So at this moment, the Patriots are not a playoff team, but it's April. Buffalo's a playoff team. I would say Miami is a playoff team. I would say Denver is a playoff team, obviously. I would say KC is a playoff team. I would not say New England is a playoff team right now. Even with the addition of Devontae Parker, they got to do more. They do. They need help on the secondary. They need help on the offensive line needs help. So, They got Trent Brown, but that's not enough. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out the weeks leading up to the NFL draft. As I don't think they're done adding. So after I was done last week recording a Patriots podcast, I go on Twitter and I see that Bruce Arians, I got to do a Brady segment, I'm sorry, that Bruce Arians stepped down from coaching the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as was going into the front office role. And that Todd Bowles was immediately going to be head coach. And immediately what crossed my mind was, well, that's why Tom came back. So Brady, at the end of this past season, after they lose to the Rams, he's pissed. He doesn't want to be there. They talk it out. He says, okay, I'm just going to hang it up. Bruce Arians is I don't want to play for... He didn't want to play for Bruce Arians, period. Okay? He owns the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Okay? He runs the team. He's the GM. He's the coach. He's everything. Okay? What Tampa Bay did for Brady is what Robert Kraft didn't do in 2019 for Brady. Brady didn't want to play for Belichick after the 17 Super Bowl loss to the Eagles because he was being treated like an a-hole. He didn't want to play for Bruce Arians because Bruce Arians was a clown and didn't know what he was doing, according to Brady. So he retires in quotes. He goes to the soccer game in England or whatever it was. That's owned by the Glazer family, who the Glazers own the Buccaneers and they own a soccer team in England. I forgot who it is, but Brady goes to the game and he talks to the ownership and they say, "Okay, Tom, what can we do to help you?" Get rid of Arians. And so then they say, "Okay, we'll get rid of him, but give us a couple of weeks." So Brady unretires. They make up some job for Arians to do. Arians says, "Okay, fine." He even said it was easier for him to come back. It was easier to retire when Tom came back because he knew Tom wanted him out. Tom Brady runs the Tampa Bay operation. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneer fans don't want to get that. And even the national media that said, well, he stepped away for health reasons. Brady and Arians have a great relationship and it has nothing to do with Tom. Yes, it has everything to do with Tom. He's sitting in the front row smiling at the Arians Todd Bowles press conference. Tom Brady sitting in the front row. He had everything to do with it. What the Glazer family did, the owner of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did, is what Robert Kraft didn't do in 19. He let Brady walk. Instead of saying, "All right, Tom, we'll give you what you want. We'll get rid of Bill. We'll put him in the front office. And we'll make Josh McDaniels head coach or Bill O'Brien. Who do you want? And then we'll do with that. So then you can still be here, win more championships." But here's the thing. Bill wasn't going to go for that. Because Bill doesn't let one person, one player, run the team like Tampa does. No matter how big the player is. But I say, fuck it. You only get one ride. You might as well go all in. So if Brady wanted Bill gone, Kraft should have said, "Bill will give you an office role." And if he said no, then no. Then go somewhere else. We'll bring in Josh McDaniels or somebody and they'd be winning. That's what I think Kraft should have done. Because here we are, 3 years later, Brady's recruiting all these players to come back. Leonard Fournette, Gronk's probably going to come back. Fucking Julian Edelman's probably going to come back, honestly, if his knee is good. So, he gets all of these guys to play for him. Did that in New England. Yeah, Bill does it to somewhat, but he gave those guys a lot of money last year, and Cam Newton was the quarterback. You can't say that. You can't say the same thing for another player. You can say another coach, I should say. You could say it for a player. Like, players want to play for other guys. The easiest place to win. If you want to win a Super Bowl, where are you going to go? Tampa Bay or New England? Tampa. If Brady was here, it'd be New England. Like it was for 20 years. Tampa fans don't want to hear that. They think that it's they hate Tom Brady. There's some Tampa fans that do not like Tom Brady, that want him gone. Because they don't want to know the truth, that Tom is the reason why they win all the time. And he's the coach, he's the GM, he's everything. They don't want to accept the fact that he runs the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Todd Bowles is just there. He was the defensive coordinator, so he doesn't have to get in the way, Brady, who's going to try and run the offense. Because he's the offensive coordinator too, not Brian Leftwich. Brady runs Tampa. I'm going to keep saying it. He runs it. Period. It's so blatantly obvious. He retires. They say, what can we do to help you, make you come back? He says, get rid of Bruce. They give him a front office job. They say, oh, well, health issues, blah, blah. Okay. Win, lose, we booze. Not the case. Not the case. Brady comes out of retirement. Bruce Arians retires. Like, come on. Are you fucking... Like, it's so obvious. So fucking obvious. Brady had everything to do with it. He got Bruce Arians fired. And if you don't want to believe that, don't believe it. But you're living in denial. If you have a problem, email Felger at felger@985thesportsopen.com or call them, 617-779-0985. Wait 3 hours and give you their point from 2 to 6. That Brady had nothing to do with it, and they will laugh in your fucking face. Laugh in your face. Laugh. Last time I'm going to say it. Tom Brady runs Tampa Bay. Period. Steve's draft board. Tight ends. Who are the Patriots going to pick at the tight end position in the 2022 NFL Draft? Notice when I do this, I pick colleges that I think attract Bill. Alabama, Rutgers, Boston College, Michigan, Florida, kinda. But mostly Michigan, Boston College, Alabama, and Rutgers. You'll see that here. First one, Trey Barry, which probably won't get... I picked him, Boston College. Strengths. A coordinated athlete and tough player to tackle. Running with low pad level. Has good body thickness and strength. He excels finding soft spots in the zone coverage and using his large frame to shield defenders. He's good strength and effort to run through arm tackles. Above average acceleration for a big man. Good vision to set up blocks. And while he isn't quick enough to elude in tight quarters and take advantage of a defender, leaning to spring for additional yardage. His weaknesses. A glider moves faster than he appears, but lacks the top end speed to be a real threat down the seam. Inconsistent with his release off the line of scrimmage. High cut frame and limited power in hands prevent a top blocking grade. Is a bit high-hipped and slow to get rolling. Frame limits upside as a blocker. Doesn't break many tackles or do enough after contact. Second one. Jake Ferguson from Wisconsin. I don't think the tight end class is a bit popular this year. Didn't look like it. I got all these from Draft Buzz, by the way. His strengths. Looks to get involved downfield and will block multiple defenders on a single play when he can. Understands his role as a blocker. Gets a quick release off the line. Dips his shoulder and shows some savvy eight as a route runner to avoid contact with defenders to get in his route. Good strength and effort to run through arm tackles. Has a good hand-eye coordination and body control to turn and adjust to poorly thrown balls. Good vision to set up blocks. And while he isn't quick enough to elude in tight quarters and take advantage of a defender, learning to spring for additional yardage, has smooth body control, reliable hands, and natural ball skills to adjust to off-target throws and make impressive catch. Has extremely good soft natural hands, consistently makes the clean catch. His weakness is high cut frame and limited power in hands prevent a top blocking grade. Is a bit high-hipped and slow to get rolling. Frame limits upside as a blocker. He's a glider, moves faster than he appears, but lacks the top end speed to be a real threat down the seam. Last one. Giovanni Haskins, tight end from Rutgers. Still loves Rutgers players. His strengths: he is a highly competitive player and quickly gets to the perimeter, blocking well in space at the second level. Gets a quick release off the line, dips his shoulder, and shows some savvy 8 as a route runner to avoid contact. Soft hands, flashes good to very good tackling and overall body control to make catches outside of his frame. Good effort at the point of attack and second level as a blocker. Intelligent and will quickly acclimate to an NFL offense. Varies the speed of his route, using hesitation and shoulder fakes to get the defender guessing. Above average acceleration for a big man. Has enough speed to challenge the seam, but does not possess elite top-end speed. His weaknesses: a glider, moves faster than he appears, but lacks the top-end speed to be a real threat down the seam. Only average lateral agility to elude and might not be fast enough to be a consistent threat down the seam against NFL competition. Will have his share of drops with inconsistent focus and too often tried running with the ball before the catch. So those are my 3 that the Patriots could draft at the tight end position. I mean, they have one tight end, right? Hunter Henry. They have 2 with Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith wasn't that good last year. We'll see if he has a better season this year. But way it's going, Hunter Henry looks like the guy. And then if they can draft like another tight end, a young one, to maybe 1 or 2, maybe 2, be alongside Hunter Henry. And then if Jonnu Smith doesn't work out or pan out, they can move on from him at the end of the season, maybe. And then promote the guy that they draft in this year's draft. That would be cool too. So next week I'm going to be doing wide receivers, and then I'm going to do running back, and then the last final week we're going to do quarterback, and then that will be it. And then I will post all of the offensive guys that I drafted unquote on Twitter, and then the following week after the draft we'll see if we were right on any or did we hit on any. And that'll be kind of fun too, from the offensive and defensive side. So, having said that, I'm going to wrap it up. You guys have a great week, and hopefully the Patriots do add some more stuff, I sound like Mac. Add some more players to their offense for Mac Jones, who is working out with Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Aguilar, Jacoby Myers, and Devontae Parker in Tampa, Florida. They are working out. They did yesterday. They posted a video on Instagram, I think it was, on Bourne's Instagram. And N'Keal Harry wasn't there. That should tell you plenty that N'Keal Harry's probably days are numbered in a Patriots uniform. So I wouldn't be surprised if I'm done with this podcast, I check on Twitter and N'Keal Harry is no longer on the Patriots. So that wouldn't surprise me at all. So having said that, have a great week, everybody. And go Pats!